What's up, everyone? This is Vinny Chens and Big Joe.
Yeah, baby.
And this is episode 3 of the 7 Out podcast. On this episode, we talk a little bit more about our recent trips to Parx and my deep run to the $300 Big Stax event, our upcoming trip to Borgata and Atlantic City, and what it was like growing up in a family of gamblers. Thanks for all your positive feedback. Please follow us at 7outpod on Twitter or email us at 7outpod@gmail.com.
I feel very lucky right now.
We believe in you, Frank.
All right.
Whatever you do, don't roll a 7!
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Why would you say that?
I didn't know!
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
So let me get this straight. The Win Summer Classic in Vegas, and this guy finishes 5th out of 2,197.
He's heating up!
2 days later, this motherfucker jumps into the 888 event with almost 9,000 runners and finishes in 140th place.
Come on!
Then your first trip back to Borgata from the almighty stack, and you finish 20th out of 1,073 entrants.
Somebody should put a straitjacket on this guy!
Now, throwing it back to the first episode, you go and get 9th out of 5,130 at the Borgata Deep Stack kickoff.
He's on fire!
And then, this past weekend, the Parx 300, he did it again.
I did it.
Boom shakalaka!
18th place out of 2,874.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. But that's one hell of an introduction for 18th place finish. Because you know what I don't see?
What's that?
I don't see any first place finishes in the past few months.
Yeah, well, I mean, why don't you give us some details about this one?
Started off like any other tournament weekend, Joe. Friday night, did my normal routine, took the wife out to dinner because I know I'm not going to see her all weekend. Get up around 7:30 in the morning on Saturday, walk the dog, get some breakfast, then jump in the car. It was a real smooth ride to Bensalem. Take the Jersey Turnpike, no traffic, no weather issues. Got there in about an hour and 40 minutes, right before the start of day one. We checked into the Best Western down the street. Definitely not the best hotel to stay in, but, Parx doesn't have a hotel, right? So a beautiful casino. They're making a lot of renovations, but again, no hotel that belongs to the casino. So, usually staying at the Holiday Inn, the Marriott. But for this trip, it was the Best Western. Parx actually gives a poker rate of like $85 plus tax for the Best Western. It's, a minute down the road. It's actually across the street from a great diner for breakfast called the Metro. So typically we would, have the routine of getting there a little bit early.
Wait a second. Who's we?
Well, in this case, the we is Danny Osh and Stevie Mandime. Our good friends, as you know, they're in our group chat. They've been, following along with some of the poker tournaments I've been playing in the past few years. We play a home game together, but they don't typically, make it out for these big field tournaments. Obviously, they both have jobs, full-time jobs, tough to get away, but they jumped in the car and they decided to come play the Big Stax 300. So, we got to the Parx registration area around the same time. We all got our seats, and I noticed that I was actually sitting at Steve's table. Now, oddly enough, Steve's only played 2 tournaments, I believe, at Parx with me. The last time we both registered together, I sat at his table.
Is that what usually happens? Like you register and you just get sat with whoever?
No, it's random. It should be random. There's usually about 8 or 9 different tables. They're filling up at once. It's not like if you guys come in a row, you're all sitting at the same table. I don't know how me and Steve got the same table twice, but I noticed I had the same table as Steve. So I did my normal routine again, as I go to the bathroom, hang out for a little bit, get centered, wash my hands, and then I came back and sat right next to Steve, which was nice.
Yeah, that's weird, man.
It's good and bad. It's great because he gets to see how I play, which is helpful, for him. But more importantly, I get to see how he plays. We're still in that process of kind of teaching him and Danny Osh how to write out their hands so we can go through their hand histories, but letting me kind of see how he plays, talking about each hand after the hand is very helpful for him to learn. So not to say we like taking each other's chips or anything like that, but, we can give him a little insight into why I do what I do and, what he should do in certain situations. So luckily for him, or maybe unluckily for him, that didn't last too long because I busted my first bullet within probably about 2 to 3 hours of playing with Steve.
So once you bust, you rebuy and you get sent to a different table. It's not like you don't stay at the same table.
No, it's not really a rebuy. They're actually called re-entry tournaments. Rebuy used to be you got a rebuy ticket, you rebought, you sat where you are. Re-entry, it's like you're a completely unique entrant now, right? So you walk up to the cage, give them that same $340, get a completely new seat assignment.
Got it.
So about 2 to 3 hours in, I got a new seat assignment, and luckily this was the last bullet I'd have to shoot in this tournament before getting that 18th place. So anyway, we sat here last week or 2 weeks ago when we were recording our last podcast. I predicted there'd be 1,500 people, for this $300 event. I couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah, you were super wrong.
No, in a good way, but yes, I was super wrong. The last time that we've seen a field size this big was 2017. It was August. The Parx 300 got 2,805 entrants. Now, at this time, day one, I didn't realize, but we ended up breaking the record for the Parx 300, for the Parx Big Stax in general.
In day one, the record was already broken?
No, it was close to it. It was 2,788 going into day two, and people can buy in for day two. So it ended up crushing the record. It got to 2,874, but 86 entrants registered day two.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that means that 86 people either came in day two without playing day one, or some people busted right away day two. And this is a really unique tournament. You're not going to see this that often, but Parx has this new rule that started about 1.5 years ago where you can buy in day two for the first hour. They were already unique before this because they let you buy in up to the start of day two. And when you bought in, you, in this case for the 300, were getting 6 big blinds. The blind levels were 2,500, 5,000, 5,000, which means the small blind's 2,500, the big blind was 5,000, and the ante was 5,000. For the Parx 300, you start with 30,000 in chips. So 30,000 divided by the 5,000, you're starting with 6 big blinds. That's what you're paying your $340 for.
I feel like that's scary, right?
It's definitely a degenerate move, but I personally love the idea of it. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can turn $340 into, in this case, I think first prize was like $140,000. Where else are you going to turn $300 into $140,000? Yeah, is your back against the wall with 6 big blinds? Do you have to make a move right away? Yeah, 100%. Do I think that it goes a little overboard? Yes. And I think Parx may be kind of taking advantage of people a little bit because their rule up again until about 1.5 years ago, you were allowed to buy in up to the start of day two. You paid your $340, you got your $30K stack, you're paying 6 big blinds. Now, suddenly they allow you to buy in up to an hour into day two. So the blind levels are about to go to 3,000, 6,000, which means some people are buying in and getting only 5 big blinds. That's what made this field get so huge. That's what made the record-breaking 86 entrants from day two come in. And I remember sitting there, Joe, I was right by the cage, okay, right where you'd buy in. I saw one guy buy in 5 times that first hour. Okay.
Of day two?
Of day two. Okay. So I don't know how many times he bought in day one. I don't know how many times if he played Thursday and Friday and Saturday, but I do know I heard him go up to the cage, kind of ashamed probably, kind of make a joke like, oh, one more time. This is the one. This is the one. I watched this guy throw away $1,500. I watched him bust about 10 minutes later. It's not always smart, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's smart if you know what you're doing, but tournament poker is weird. You could play your best home game player. You can know how to play cash games. But if you don't know your push-shove ranges, and that's a little bit of a concept maybe people don't understand, but if you don't know how to play short-stack tournament poker, you really should not be buying into these tournaments. At this level, anyway, I'm saying.
So I'd gone up to meet Vin with a buddy of mine that night. And in the bathroom, right before you guys broke for day one, I heard a guy say he had bought in about 8 times day one and was planning on firing multiple bullets day two.
Yeah. I mean, there are guys that are. I think the record is a guy I actually know who bought in, I think, 15 times for one of these. Because when you're good, once you get a stack, you know you can run deep. And if you can run deep, you can final table. And if you can final table, you have a shot, at this case, in the 140,000. So I'm not going to say it doesn't make sense. It's just the right type of person. And I think these amateur players, right, see some of these guys who are pros do this. And then all of a sudden their 30K stack is $1 million in about an hour, and they think they can do the same. And I'm not saying they can't, but they don't know how to do it. It's
The
something.
likelihood of someone like that doing the same thing is
It's a lot like because again,
the likelihood for a pro isn't even probably that.
no,
good,
it's
right?
not. And you're gonna look more times than you're not. But again, the EV, the expected value of them works out fine because they know once they get a big stack, they can make that deep run. I've done it before. I've gotten definitely top 30 finishes with buying in day two. Going back to the tournament that actually just happened, the 500. There's a gentleman who bought in day two and got 5th place in the tournament. Not going to say any names, but a very well-known player at Parx. I know he got 5th place. He probably bought in 6 times, 7 times total, who knows? But he got 5th place, and he definitely bought in right before the re-entries ended.
Right.
So anyway, the second bullet ended up going a lot better than the first. The first was fun, sat with Steve, went over some hands, everything was good. The second bullet luckily lasted us all the way to day 3. Going into day 2, unfortunately, Stevie Mandime, Danny Osh, they didn't bag chips, which is unfortunate because, they were both playing pretty well from everything I saw. Got a little unlucky, didn't bag chips. I think they
Danny Osh busted like
pretty late
20
in the
minutes
night.
before you guys broke day one, right?
Exactly. I think when you guys got there, he busted,
Yeah.
right? Which is unfortunate. I mean, again, they're putting in some time. They're putting in the work. Just haven't really had that day 2. And look, there is no better feeling than waking up the next day, knowing the field is small, knowing you're close to that money. You get to the tournament, you open up that bag of chips, you start stacking them, you're really looking at the field. Okay, you see 100 people left, 200 people left, and you know that one of you is taking home, in this case, that 140 grand. So day two went very well. I had a great table, went real well. I think we ended up bagging up that night with about 37 left, if I remember correctly. And I think the reason why I've struggled in these Parx tournaments going into day 3, they're always Sunday night is day 2, and day 3 is Monday. Because these fields are getting so massive and the structure is so great at Parx, there's so many people that are coming back for day 3. So I always have this weird line on what time I'm going to call my boss on day 2 and say, you know what, I may not be in tomorrow. I'm in a tournament.
Dude, you're better off taking the day off on Monday. And if anything, canceling it and going in.
Yeah, but then I had to take off every Monday of every tournament, and most of the time you're not going to go deep,
Yeah, so you get it back.
You're right. And maybe that'd be better for my
Otherwise,
headspace.
You feel like you're all stressed out about it.
I am, because I remember I always walk into the end of that night, and it's always, getting down to the big money time, and I'm sitting here like, okay, if I bust now, I can make it home, get to work. Because, we're bagging chips around 12:30 at night, so that 10 to 12 kind of time frame is when I'm like, all right, if I go out now, I can still be home and get to bed early enough.
Right.
In this case, I let him know that I had a good chip stack going into day 3. So I let him know, look, I wasn't going to be in. I was in a good space at that point. Came back the next day. There was only really 2 crushers left in the field. Not going to drop any names or anything like that, but 2 guys who I'd say I was really worried about. Guys had over $1 million in earnings. One guy has over $7 million in earnings. Ended up winning the damn thing or chopping the damn thing. But we ended up going out 18th. It was a good run. It was bittersweet. We got about, I think, 14, 15 times your buy-in, something like that. But not obviously where you want to finish.
But still, man, it's awesome to see you go that deep and recently pretty consistently.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And, I don't know if it is just variance coming my way. I've had a lot of good runs. I don't get to play as much as I want, right? So to go, these 5 tournaments that you mentioned are 5 of the 7 tournaments I've played, the last 7. So only 2 I haven't cashed. And luckily when I'm cashing, I'm going deep, which is all I can ask for. It's hard to get first, man, but you're not happy unless you do.
Sure.
So, look, although that was extremely exciting, and it was a record-breaking field, and we had, 86 people buy into day 2.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
You had told us about some of the guys at your table, and I don't know, these real funny and guys had good stories and all this stuff. I mean, not that you might necessarily want to share some of them, but I mean,
no, there's
is
this one guy.
Is it usual to have like fun at a table like that?
No,
like,
so day 1 was a little of an anomaly for me. Usually when I get to a table at Parx, I should know about 3 or 4 of the guys there. I know from past experience how they play, or at least that they know what they're doing. Day 1 was a dream scenario for me. After I got off that table with Steve and I got to my second table, it was Amateur City, baby. It was great. Not only that, it was Amateur City where 2 guys kind of knew who I was, who I didn't know, and they were unrightfully nervous to play with me, which they shouldn't be, but they were, because, if you don't have a score and you're with someone who has a score, you automatically think they're good. I could be the worst player in the world, but
is everybody at a table like looking up Hen and Mob to see if any
always,
of the guys?
always.
That's what they're
Once
doing?
you see someone's name in the blog, if your name gets put in the blog, everyone's going to go ahead and look you up. And again, if you're a guy who only has $7,000, $8,000 in earnings, and you see a guy that has a good amount of money in earnings, you're gonna be, oh, he must know what the hell he's doing.
Right,
so now you're automatically scared, which is great when you know that's the situation. This guy to my left was awesome, but he was just nervous and he was new. And I was making buddy with him like I do usually at the table. I like to be friendly with everyone. But the guy who I mentioned to you, who you're talking about, his name was Paulie, okay? And he was this big Italian guy who was from Brooklyn. He had me laughing the whole entire tournament. He put a pretty horrible, bad beat on me, you know. I know I talked about at the Borgata, I got real lucky at the end there with my ace-king, beating the kings. Got a 1% scenario. It means there's 1% chance he's going to beat me. I'm not going to go into details about the hand, but he crushed me at that time. I was chip leader at the table. He was second. We got it in on the flop, and it didn't turn out well for me. But again, I don't care. It's a $300 tournament. It happens. Sometimes you get real lucky. Sometimes you don't. But he was joking about how he thought I was going to be mad and everything, and I was saying, no, I kind of made fun of him. He made fun of me. We became friends. This guy had me cracking up. I mean, not only were me and him gambling on flops, whether they were red or black, we were betting on horse races together during the middle of the tournament. We were looking up. We were picking numbers. We don't know who the hell we're betting, but, it passes the time. This guy was very open about his experience with in his recent trip to Bahamas, buying some ladies of the night for $300. So every time he busted someone, he would go, "Oh, that's another $300. You know where that's going." He goes,
That's awesome.
He showed me pictures on his phone of these Bahamian ladies of the night, these hookers that he said he spends time with. And he was not ashamed of it at all. So God bless him. He was laughing. He had me laughing. We both ended up bagging a huge stack at the end of the night. Paulie didn't make it through past day 2, but I really do hope to play with him again. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But look, the best part of the weekend was that Big Joe and our friend Jeff showed up at the end of day 1.
You goddamn right we did.
I think this podcast actually got you gambling more, which I'm happy to see. Because we had Danny Osh there, we had Stevie Mandime, we're bagging chips. I look up, and all of a sudden I see Joe is there with our friend Jeff, with Steve, with Dan. They're ready to roll some dice. It was the perfect scenario, knowing that I already had chips coming back for day 2. My best friends are here. We're going to go gamble. Now we just had to find a craps table, right?
Yeah.
And that brings us to our next
Tales from the Craps Table.
Joe, you remember the last time you came to roll some dice at Parx?
Yeah, man. It was like 2 years ago.
2 years?
Right?
Yeah, I think it might
for
have been.
Parx, yeah.
For Parx. I think it might have actually been for the same event. I think it was a $300 event in 2017.
You're absolutely right.
Were you with Jeff that time too?
Yeah, actually. I forgot that. Yeah, it was both of us.
Yeah. So I remember because I don't know what made you come this time. I'm extremely excited that you came. But yeah, just like last time, we had another winning session, didn't we?
Yeah, it was freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, because if we cycle back 2 years ago, I'm not sure if Dan was with us or not, or if he came with you, but I know it was more than just me, you, and Jeff.
He was with us 2 years ago also.
So you 3 came up to meet me.
Yeah.
Okay. And I remember it was one of the first times that we were rolling dice since the bachelor party. I remember we had a $15 table, and you had $200, and
I had that year. I had $100.
$100 at a $15 craps table. Jeff maybe had $200. Somehow,
yeah, that was...
we turned that into a few thousand each, which is crazy.
Yeah,
because
it was unbelievable.
I remember being real nervous that literally $100 on a $15 table is gone in 10 seconds sometimes. Yeah. So luckily, going back to 2017, things worked out real well. But it also kind of set the bar a little bit high for this trip.
The whole ride there, we're saying, remember last time we went? Because, it's a long ride to get there and lose a couple $100 in 5 minutes and drive back home. That would really be shitty.
I was real nervous when I saw you guys there. I'm happy you had a little bit more money to open up the table.
Well, this time I brought $200.
Well, there you go. I mean, look, you open up with double the money, you should win double the money. That's logic, right? That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, last time things worked out. What made you guys even decide to come this time?
Honestly, I have no idea. We knew you guys, the 3 of you guys were going to be there. And
you can't miss the opportunity.
No, it just worked out with my schedule at home. I knew we could make it work.
Can we pretend it has something to do with the podcast?
No,
nothing. No. So if we didn't start this podcast, you definitely would have still been there.
Well, let me ask you something. Were we doing this podcast when we came out 2 years ago?
No, but it's been 2 years.
So what?
I like to think the podcast got you there. I'm going to pretend.
If you want me to say it, I'll say it.
Say it now.
It was for the podcast.
That's what I thought. See, 100%. It was for the podcast. You and Jeff came. I loved it. Jeff was excited like a little screw girl walking into the casino. And luckily, again, we had a good roll. So I remember when we walked in, it was 11:30, right? So
it was pretty crowded, right?
It was crowded. Yeah. And the craps tables at that time are usually real crowded. So I was a little worried. Luckily, as we walked in on the far side of the pit, I saw there was an open side to the whole table.
It was like the light was shining
Yeah.
down from heaven,
I-
showing us this table.
I started to run. I ran to the area. Luckily, you guys were behind me. All of a sudden, I see you come in. Steve
Except for
comes
fucking
in.
Danny Osh.
And Danny Osh is dragging ass. He didn't get there in time. Some guy kind of sidled up in between us. I tried to make it real obvious that we were 5 and there was no room for him, but he was there to play. He was ready to go.
Doesn't help that a bunch of us are gigantic.
You would think that would have kept him away, but it didn't. So
I wouldn't want to play next to you.
No,
Let's put it that
he
way.
snuggled up between a couple of big guys
Yeah.
there. But things went well. I remember you rolled first.
No. 2 people across the
Oh,
table.
okay,
from
across
us
the table rolled.
and had pretty good rolls to start. That's what gave us the opportunity to actually stay on the table.
Gotcha,
Well,
'cause if
not
they-
you, but me.
Yeah, well, if they rolled poorly, then yeah, it wouldn't have worked out so well.
It was
right.
2 pretty solid rolls. I mean, the one lady that was across from us hit maybe
Couple
5 or
points,
6
right?
points, right? A
Oh
bunch of
wow,
highways.
okay.
Yeah, it was
I
a
remember
good roll.
doing well. I remember saying to myself, I'm going to be real conservative, right? Because when I'm not getting rated, like at Parx, I said earlier, there's no hotel, right? I shouldn't care so much what the hell Parx thinks of me. You know, I go to Borgata, I go to Vegas, I'm trying to be a big shot and get hotel rooms and all this. Well, Parx don't give me nothing. They give me a burger and a pretzel, you know? So I say to myself, okay, at Parx, I'm here with my friends. This is more fun, right? Let's just have some fun. But then the opposite thing happens. We start off to a hot start, and now I'm pissed off I didn't, I didn't bet what I'm normally
how
betting.
that went, right.
So it's a lose-lose for me, I think. But yeah, so we started off hot. Okay, good. So the lady rolled a couple of points. Then you got the dice.
Yeah, and I'm in my usual spot,
Right in the corner.
right in the corner.
Ready to go.
Did I crap out the first roll?
Yes, you did,
I
Joe.
did. I think I rolled a 3. And then I think I rolled a 9, and I was all excited because I like that 9.
That's right.
And I fucking 7 out.
7 out. You went 3, 9,
We loaded
7.
up that table.
3,
and I
9, 7.
Fucking 7 out.
That's
just
not
like
the
that.
way you want to start. But, you know, for the rest of us, we say, okay, you know, you set the bar nice and low. No problem.
I
No problem.
think you literally said, like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
glad you did that,
Yeah.
so now I don't feel any
Nah,
pressure.
I can't do any worse than that. No pressure for us. Now, I think the random guy rolled next.
Yeah, it's the guy who kept,
So, yeah. So we're going to get into this here. We talked a lot about craps etiquette last week. And I'm pretty sure in the span of the 2.5 hours we were there, we saw every one of those things we talked about happen. Everything we said not to do, we saw.
Actually, when I 7'd out, I hit a woman's money as she was throwing it down the table.
Perfect. You hit a lady who's going for the field or something
I
like
remember
that.
looking at you and going like, motherfucker.
This just happened already.
Yeah.
The next thing, the guy next to you, again, much smaller than the rest of us, he gets the dice, he's excited, and then we see the routine start.
It was insane.
This guy, what did he do? He
He
go
was
ahead.
rolling them towards himself against the wall about 8 times until he actually set the dice, took them in.
I tried to get an idea on if it was a pattern, if he
was
was looking
not.
for
There
a
was no
number.
pattern.
Sometimes he'd roll a 6, sometimes he'd roll a 4.
Didn't
And
matter.
There was no rhyme or reason. Whether he rolled it 3 times against the wall, 8 times against the wall,
And
it
every
didn't matter.
time he did it too, he snapped his fingers at the end.
Yeah, a little snap.
yeah.
He had his thing going, annoyed the hell out of us.
And not only did he do that, what did he do when he threw the dice?
He threw him off the table, Joe.
Like he was throwing it like he was fucking pitching a baseball.
Yeah, he whipped them. They went off the table multiple times. I remember there was a time after the point was established, it was a bunch of horn numbers. So it was like 3, 11, 12. We didn't get a box or a point. It was like 10 minutes, it felt like.
Yeah, it was a long time.
It was grueling. Now, on the opposite side of things, he did pretty well.
Yeah, he actually made us some money.
He made us some money. He was into the game. He made us some money. I don't think he made himself any money. He was doing these weird things. I don't understand some people.
Was that the guy with the on and off
Yeah,
stuff?
I don't get this.
Yeah.
The guy is rolling, and he's constantly taking his bets on and off. Like he'd move it from, okay, I want to hop in the 6s, hop in the 9s. He was gambling on gambling, which I don't understand.
No.
I don't get it. He's taking his odds on and off. I just don't understand. But he didn't make any money for himself, but he made us some money, which is great. And he got real excited when he was rolling those dice.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never seen someone throw him that hard before in my life. Ever.
And then I remember Steve rolled next, didn't do so well.
I think he hit a couple points.
Was it Steve
Wasn't
or Jeff?
terrible.
Maybe Jeff did horrible?
No. Yeah, Jeff did horrible.
Jeff did horrible.
Yeah.
Now, we're trying to teach Jeff to play, right? Because Jeff is new, and he's excited. He won the first time he went to Parx. We won when we were in the bachelor party. And, you know, as far as he's concerned, craps is easy. You win every freaking time. And, of course, as luck may have it, he starts to win again. Now, Jeff is, also another large man, right? And Jeff has some short arms.
Real short.
Real short arms.
Real short.
Short arms to the point where he was having a lot of trouble getting those chips off that table.
He couldn't reach him. He either had to throw his chips like completely across the table,
Yeah.
or Steve had to pick them up off the table.
Yeah. I mean, he was so happy, so I don't think he cared so much. But I felt bad because there's a lot of times Jeff decided to do a lot of come bets, right? I don't think he understood exactly what he was doing, but he made, I think, more than all of us because he had like 4 or 5 come bets up at a time. He was doing $15 come bets, and then he would just throw down $20 odds in every one of them.
Yeah,
you know. And I remember there was so many times where he had 4 or 5 come bets up, plus he had his maxed out odds on the pass line.
And he was doing it during some really
good
decent
rolls. Some really good rolls. So Jeff ended up doing real well, even though Steve had to get his chips for him. We were all tipping, which I think was great.
Dealers were having a good time. I was
you were over-tipping.
Yeah. You know what? I was asking her to do a lot for me. I felt like I don't know, man.
You had a couple of situations where I was like,
they won on all my bets, so I don't care.
You had a couple of situations. I looked over. I'm like, what the hell what'd you do, man? You bet the wrong thing or something like that?
Nah, I don't know what the fuck. I placed a come bet on the open out roll. Something. I don't know what it was.
She was helpful. She was a great
There's a lot
dealer.
going on, man.
For the Parx dealers, they're usually not the best. They were good.
They were awesome.
There's a lady, I wish I can give her props. I don't know her name.
Yeah, me neither.
But she was awesome. So we were all tipping, all of us. I remember a bunch of us had money on all the numbers. You kept throwing just $5 out on different numbers, which is great. We had a couple hard ways for them. Not a lot of luck on the hard ways that night.
I mean, we got the hard ways up a couple times to.
Got them up, but we never hit the
hit
parlay
'em like that. Yeah.
Because I always parlay them, right? So if I put 5 on each number, you parlay it up, and you end up having $35 or $50 on there. Depends on
I think we had $50 maybe 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, we did.
But then never hit it again.
There was once we had the 6, 8, and the 10 all hit up, all ready to go, all gunned up. And just couldn't get them out. But we all made money.
Also, something I noticed, besides us, almost nobody at that table was actually playing a pass line bet.
No, so the other side of the table was doing that same thing we just mentioned. They love these. I don't know if it's a Philly thing. Maybe it's a Philly thing because I see it more than anywhere else.
Super weird.
But when you're there, there's a lot of those one-roll bets. Okay, it's a lot of one-roll bets. Just hop the 9s, hop the 10s. Randomly throwing out snake eyes and 12s and crap like that.
Yep.
And then when you hit the point, everyone's cheering, and you didn't make anything.
No.
Where the hell's the fun in that?
Nobody was cheering.
No one was cheering.
Except for us. I mean, we were yelling, and dealers were yelling.
We were having a great
we
time.
had a lot of bets out.
We were having a great
but
time. We all cashed out as winners.
Collectively, we did pretty damn good.
We saw a lot of bad etiquette. We saw that guy rolling the dice, taking forever. We saw ladies on the other side of the table throwing their hands in, getting hit with the dice. Then all of a sudden, some other guy literally squeezes in between you guys. He bought in for $25.
$25.
$25 and crippled up
there was no room.
singles. Even the pit boss said there's no room. There's no room. But you had to have 6 on the side of the table.
He did some of that same shit, like on off.
On off again. On off. He looked like he was like 15. So I don't know what was going on there. Steve was asking why I wasn't getting mad at him for doing all this stuff because he looked young.
I expected you to freak out.
He looked real young. He's learning the game. I don't want to discourage it. If it's an older guy, if it's a man or a woman, they're gonna get yelled at. But this kid, he was learning the game. He had his own little strategy. He knew the lingo, but he wasn't making any money, unfortunately. But we all walked out, right? I mean, so we left.
Fun,
we left as winners.
We played for what, like 2.5 hours?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised you guys even stayed as long as you did.
And then me and Jeff drove home for an hour and 40 or so.
What time did you get
home? I got
home?
home at like 4:30 in the morning.
Before the kids wake up.
Yeah, they woke up about 2 hours later.
So they don't even know Daddy was out there
gambling.
gambling.
Sunday.
They don't know his dad was out. Cole and Riley have no idea that you were out in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, gambling all night.
Nope.
Okay, that's good. Well, one day they'll know. One day.
So did you end up gambling the rest of the trip?
No. I mean, day 2 went pretty late, to about like 12 or so at night. Wanted to make sure I was well rested for day 3. So didn't really gamble much that Sunday night. And then Monday, after I busted the tournament, I got my money. I don't really feel like gambling. I want to get home. So I was able to get back on the road around, I think it was 7, 8 o'clock at night. Make sure I got home in time to see the wife and then, wake up and go to work the next day. I did, however, go back this past weekend. So the 500 is also in the Big Stax series. The only difference, as mentioned before, is that now you get 40,000 in chips, but everything else stays the same. You can buy in day 2. There was actually a great field of about 1,500 runners. Actually wrapped up yesterday morning, which was Tuesday morning, I think at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So it's
crazy.
grueling, man. I mean, again, it's great that these tournaments are getting so long because that means there's so many people in them, but it's too long. And I don't know, the final table is just too deep is the best way to put it. You get to the final table, typically in these kind of turbo events, a lot of people have 15, 20 blinds. At Parx, because it's such a great structure, you have so many chips and the levels are so slow. These guys have 40, 50 big blinds, and that's deep stack poker at times, So it takes a long time to get someone eliminated. So yeah, you really kind of get yourself playing till Tuesday morning, which is almost like 4 days you're playing, for these big stack events.
I mean, you'd have to take off Tuesday also at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I always think I haven't been in that situation at Parx yet. Again, I haven't really final tabled anything at Parx. I keep getting this kind of 10 to 20 range, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, I guess I would probably end up jumping in the car at 5, 6 in the morning and then going to work. I hate to say it, but
God.
I know I don't think I'd want to take off work again. I don't know if they think this is a problem, but it's a problem for rec players. It really is. If you know that you have to take off a day or 2 days, it's going to discourage you from even trying. Even though you don't think you have a good opportunity getting there, you don't want to deal with it if you do get there. It actually reminds me, I ran into a high school friend of ours literally yesterday. I was at the gym, then I went to get a sandwich and a smoothie, and he happened to be in the corner. When I go to the card club, I see him there. We weren't really close in high school, but we were acquaintances, and now I've seen him a lot more. We talk poker. He's a pretty decent player, but he doesn't really play tournaments much. He more plays cash. And he told me, he noticed I was having some success, asked me what's changed, what I've been doing, and I told him a little bit about some stuff I've been doing in terms of coaching and books, etc. How I kind of do my hand histories, and I was telling him there are definitely tournaments he can get to. But when I tell him these things are 3-4 days, he has kids, he has a wife, he has a job, he can't take off randomly.
It's a serious commitment.
It is, and you don't want these tournaments being just swamped with pros who do this for a living. You need rec players. They need rec players, otherwise they're just swapping money and playing with each other. But I was able to tell him, I was like, not only is this Parx a great structure, but they have smaller events. I mean, they have smaller events that are one-day tournaments you go to. Borgata is, in my opinion, the best for these one-day events. We have a trip coming up here on March 2nd, but it's a one-day event. Yeah, that one day may start at 11 o'clock and go to that next day at 8 a.m., but it's one day, Saturday to Sunday.
Yeah.
So you're taking off the weekend. You're taking off Saturday. Maybe you make it to Sunday. You don't got to worry about, missing work on Monday, which is a big commitment.
A game like that, though, is the strategy completely different? I mean, do you have to...
It's not like it's a super turbo. It is a turbo compared to Parx. Parx is just such a good structure. And again, what that means is the levels are long. The blinds don't go up very fast. And when the blinds don't go up very fast, you get a lot more play, right? So if you get a lot more play, it takes a lot longer for people to get knocked out. And now these tournaments end up being 3-4 days.
Is there any kind of advantage to like a seasoned player to have longer levels like that?
So yeah, a seasoned player, a pro, is going to want the longest levels possible. That's why the World Series of Poker, the main event we talked a little bit about, is one of the best structures because it's 2-hour levels. You're starting with a ton of chips, and it really allows luck to take a backseat to skill a little bit. Now, of course, it's still a big part of the game, But the longer the levels, the more play, the more time a seasoned pro can take advantage of an amateur, right, a rec player. When you have these fast levels, there's a lot more variance. There's a lot more luck involved. Anyone can win a turbo tournament. Like if I sat here and played a sit-and-go tournament with 5 blinds with a bunch of strangers, they have as good a chance as I do as winning. It's everyone's kind of throwing their chips in. You don't really play poker. So these turbo tournaments usually get a lot of amateurs kind of getting up there and winning them. But on the other side of the coin, a lot of amateurs don't know how to play short stack tournament poker. They don't know like what's called their push-shove ranges, which is, when you should actually shove your stack and when you should call off your stack. How long do you let the blinds go to? What you should do with 20 big blinds as compared to 15 or 10 or 5 or whatever the case may be. So a pro has an advantage there, but again, there's a lot more luck involved with this smaller strategy. A pro can be shoving all he wants. If he gets called off and loses, his aces can get beat by 7-deuce offsuit. It happens enough,
Where do you learn those push-shove ranges?
So
is it just play? Or
you can find online. I mean, there's online that have these charts. Yeah, there's a standard.
Okay.
Now, you don't have to play the standard, but it'll give you a good idea of what you should do with what. There's also a great app, which I strongly recommend, called Snap Shove. Every tournament poker player should know Snap Shove. It shows you, okay, what position in the table are you? Are you in the cutoff? Are you in the hijack? Are you on the button? Are you in the blind? And what hands make up a range of what you should do when. Now, this isn't getting into detail of, you should range 2 times or 3 times, or you should raise 2 times or 3 times. It's push, shove. So it's push-fold ranges, I should say. So it allows you to say you should fold here or you should push here. And it gives you a bunch of different hands that you should do that with and where. So Snap Shove is definitely something I recommend highly for people who are trying to get into tournament poker. That's great for these turbo events. And, I was telling that friend that I saw at the smoothie place, this tournament coming up at Borgata, it's a $100K guarantee on March 2nd. I'm going. I know Danny Osha's going. Mandime's going. We're going to definitely play that. If we don't do well, we are staying at Ocean that night. we'll end up gambling at the craps table. Leading up to that tournament, there was something called the Deep Stax Challenge at Borgata. So if you're in the Jersey area, New York, Connecticut, I recommend you guys trying one of these tournaments if you're trying to get into poker. They're affordable. They're on Monday, they're on Tuesday. I think they actually start on February 20th. There's a $100 tournament. It's a $20,000, guaranteed prize pool. First place will probably be like $3-4 grand or something like that, but it's a one-day tournament. You follow it up the next day on Thursday. There's a $200 tournament, then a $260 tournament with a $40,000 guarantee on Friday. Then Saturday the 23rd, there's a $400 tournament with a $50,000 guarantee.
These are all one day.
All one day. So again, it's a turbo because it's one day, but it's not like a super turbo. You're going to get some play in those first few hours, and it gives you a great opportunity for an amateur. If you're listening, you want to learn to play, get out there and get to these tournaments. This is a great place to start. And if you feel like you're comfortable enough, that one that I'll be playing in on March 2nd, it's also the same kind of structure. It's just going to be a bigger field. There's probably going to be, 400 plus people there. It's a $400 buy-in, but it's a $100,000 guarantee. And, I've taken that down twice, I think now. So it's definitely doable. It's one of those things that I played till 5, 6 in the morning, but you can definitely win that. And when you win it, you're going to win $30,000, $35,000 for a day's worth of work. So anyway, going back to Parx, I went back for the 500. Did not have much success. Didn't make it out of day one. I made it to the last level of day one, then, ended up losing. So I busted, but that's okay. I went and played craps, which was great. I opened up, I remember, lost my first buy-in very quickly. And then I opened up the second, and it was my time to roll. And luckily, I won back all my money and then some. So that was a good start. Now, one thing I tried, which unfortunately didn't work this trip. If you listen to the most recent You Can Bet on That podcast, Dr. Mike and Mark talk about, going to the cage to get a marker before going to the craps table. So we talked about one of the worst things you can do is what at the craps table. You can buy in, right? Mid-roll.
Right.
You throw your cash down, you want chips. So a lot of times you come to a table, you're in the middle, there's a roll going on, and you're waiting patiently. Maybe that roll is great, and now you feel like you missed out.
You want in, yeah.
You want in, but you don't want to be rude, right? And I know we talked about that lady who thought I had great etiquette because I was waiting, but yeah, I'm dying inside as I'm watching these people make money, and I'm not because I was there. I just didn't get there soon enough. So they talk about on the podcast, go to the cage, get a marker, get it for chips instead of cash. Now, I've gone to get a marker either at the table when I'm going to open up at a table game, but if I'm going to play slots, I typically go to the cage. I ask for a marker for cash. So that means I can go to the casino, Joe. I can have no cash on me whatsoever. I go to the cage, give them my card, give them my ID. There's no charge for this at all, okay? It's basically coming right out of your bank account. Get say, $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is at the cage. Now you have the cash in hand. You can go buy into the tables. Dr. Mike and Mark said, you know what? Get chips at the cage so then you can walk right up to the craps table and you play right away.
You're not interrupting the game. You're just getting in.
Exactly. You can just start playing. You make a bet like anybody else. So I thought I was going to be smooth. I'm like, you know what? I never tried to do that. But I learned a little lesson here. So if you don't do this at Parx, because it's not going to work.
They wouldn't let you do it?
No. Not only did they let me do it, you can't get a marker for slots at Parx, which is highly frustrating. So you have to go to a table. You have to get a marker for chips. You then have to bring those chips to the cage to get cash. Now, I've tried that, and then they tell me, oh, you just pulled them out over there. You can't get cash for that. You owe that marker already. Like, they make you almost pay it back right away.
I don't understand. I mean, don't they want you to spend your money?
They don't want you to spend it on slots. I don't know what the rule is. I don't know if it's a Pennsylvania thing. Maybe someone out there knows. I don't know if it's a Parx thing. But they do not allow you to get markers for slots or poker. They want you just to get it at that table, and they want you to play it at that table and then return it at that table, which was frustrating. So I wasn't able to get it, so I had to sit and wait. Doesn't matter. There wasn't a huge roll I missed. If anything, I bought in too early because, again, I lost my first buy-in real quick at the craps table before I was able to roll and, get it back. But anyway, so after that, I went to bed, went back to the Best Western, woke up, hit the road even before getting any breakfast, was able to spend the Sunday with my family.
So you going back to Parx next week?
No. Next week is actually the 1100, which is a great tournament. Again, now it's the same structure as the others, but you're getting 50,000 in chips. Definitely a little bit of a tougher field, but still going to be plenty of amateurs and recs out there. Actually going with the wife away, Pennsylvania, the Poconos area for a couple of days.
Nice.
And then, I was going to go back and play the 2500, which is an 8-handed tournament, which means there's only 8 people playing at the table instead of 9, which is typical. So it goes a little faster. But instead, we're on March 2nd, we're going to go down to Borgata, as I mentioned, to play that 100K guarantee. So probably not going to be back at Parx. again into the WPT Deep Stacks, which is in May. Again, they'll have a 300, they'll have a 500, and then it's either an 1100 or maybe a 1350, I think, or something like that, which is the big WPT Deep Stacks. So probably not going to hear much about that.
All right, so since we're not going to be talking about Parx for a while, I have a quick story I wanted to share with you.
Okay.
So my grandpa, about 40 years ago, worked with a guy who owned a bunch of horses. Race horses.
Okay, yeah. Thoroughbreds.
Guy was a real shyster. So he used to tank his horse. He would enter his horse into races with the intention of it losing. He'd do this for 3-4 races in a row, and then he would send the horse out to Parx and run it in a race that he knew he was going to win. Apparently, he had really good horses.
So he runs them at like other racetracks, has them lose on purpose. Like
3-4 races in a row.
Throw it. Throw
Tank
the
it.
race. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then would go enter it at Parx and bet in heavy and tell all of his buddies to come and bet at heavy also.
So I wonder if there was a reason that he did it at Parx of all places. Maybe it's a little less regulated. It's not Belmont. It's not Aqueduct.
No clue.
But it's Parx.
Yeah, Parx.
It takes a while. I don't know if the better horses ever get to Parx. It's great there's a track there.
The way my grandpa explained it was that this guy's horses could have raced in like big time races, but he had no interest in doing that. All he wanted to do was make a big load of money.
Because the odds are going to go up then. So even if they're at Parx, it's like this horse sucks, right? So now he's going to play 9, 10 to 1. Who the hell knows?
I mean, from what my grandfather says, they were going off way higher than that.
Okay. Wow.
Like crazy odds. So he said my dad, and my uncles, a bunch of them would get in a car, drive to Parx, because at that time you couldn't bet on Parx races from OTB.
Okay.
And they would go and just bet the farm on his horse. And they'd all win. And then they'd come home.
Yeah, that's it. It was that easy.
They did it like I don't know how often, but he said this wasn't like a one-time thing. This was a reoccurring event.
We've always wanted to own a racehorse. My uncle, huge in horse racing. My godfather, huge. My cousin, all into horse racing. I used to love it as a kid. I've learned that it's a sucker's game, right? So I don't get involved.
I like it. It's
you love
fun.
it? No,
yeah.
Look, we talked about how you're up all night playing on the damn app. I get it. Whatever, man.
I never admitted to that, but yeah, okay.
Okay. Allegedly, you're up all night betting on the app. But yeah, look, if you're going to tank a horse and you have a sure thing, I'm not going to say no to that.
Yeah, I mean, he said it saved their house and stuff multiple times. They just... And all of them. My dad was probably 18, 19 at that time, and they would all just go and load up on his horse.
I wish we had a situation. I don't think I ever knew someone that owned a horse and told me to go bet on it.
I actually know a couple guys.
But they would say, Joe, go bet
once
on this
in a while.
horse.
I mean, we've won some money a few times.
So now I feel left out. Now you're not telling me about this.
I don't want to I don't want to go, hey, go bet this horse. Why? I heard, I know this guy, and just because I know him doesn't mean he's going to do shit.
Do you think I care if he's going to lose? You get that little hint.
Next time I get that tip, I'll pass it on. Don't worry.
Yeah, but one day, again, I think owning a horse is one of those things where it's a lot of work, it's real expensive, and usually it doesn't work out, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to do more research on it. I like to think eventually we're going to own a horse.
Well, they got the shares you can do too now, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways of going. I think I'd want to be like real up close and personal with the horse. I'm an animal lover.
Like combing your horse's hair.
Yes, I want to feed it carrots. Yeah. I want to comb its hair. That's really all. I don't even want to race it. I just want to own a horse. Now that I'm thinking about it,
all right, that makes sense.
I want to farm. But yeah, okay, that's good.
I mean, I just thought it was interesting. Because I told him, I said, we met my buddies at Parx, and he's like, oh, Parx, and he went and told me this crazy story.
Let me tell you back in the day.
Yeah, and he told me a lot of stories, but I'll save some of those for another day.
So thanks again to everyone who's listening, going on iTunes, writing reviews, giving us 5 stars. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. This is something we kind of just put together last minute a couple weeks ago, and now it's kind of taking a hold of us.
We thank you.
Yes, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We actually just got to 100 followers, which on Twitter, which I know means nothing to a lot of people out there, and there are podcasts that have thousands, but we got to start somewhere. So that was a nice little milestone. So again, you can find us at 7OutPod on Twitter. You can email us with any questions, any concerns. You want to tell us stories. You want to tell us how you won, you lost. Tell us we're a bunch of jerk-offs. Doesn't matter. Just go ahead and write us at 7outpod@gmail.com. We actually got 3 emails this week, Joe. 3. And a segment that we love to call...
It's time for Mail Call!
All right. So, Joe, the first email, it was actually a message we got on Twitter from one of our listeners named Ed. He knows, obviously, play a lot of poker.
Bird up, Ed.
Ed sent us a picture. This past week, there is a famous poker player called Robert Mizrachi. Okay, it's the Mizrachi brothers. You probably heard of them. But Robert Mizrachi was playing down in Miami at Magic City Poker Room, and he sent me a picture here. It looks like in a game of Hold'em, a cash game, the dealer put out the Queen, the 10, and the Jack of Hearts on the flop, the King of Hearts on the turn, and the Ace of Hearts on the river.
God damn.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I don't know. Have you ever seen that live, a royal flush dealt in Hold'em?
I've never. No.
I've never seen it dealt before. I mean, because that's kind of crazy. I mean, there's a lot of these kind of carnival games in the casino where if you get dealt like a royal flush in Let It Ride, for instance, or even in Pagao, there's ridiculous payouts. This stuff does not happen very often. I know a lot of the progressives in Let It Ride and Pagao, if you get that royal flush, you know? It doesn't happen. I never seen it on a Hold'em table. I've only gotten a royal flush once in a live game. It actually happened about 3 or 4 years ago. Again, at Parx. I feel like that's all we're talking about here. But a lot of the tournaments we played at Parx, it was a $500 tournament. It was day one. And I remember not only did I get a royal flush, but I was against a gentleman named Mike, who was a regular, real great guy. He's actually from Long Island. He's a pro. He had quads, okay? Which is ridiculous, because if you don't know what that means, that's a bad beat. And a lot of these casinos, these poker rooms, have bad beat jackpots, where if you get in a hand and it's like quads over quads, which means like, say you had quad 4s, Joe, and I had quad 8s, 2 4s in your hand, I had 2 8s in my hand, the flop comes out 4 4 8, turn 8, river ace, whatever, you and I are going to split a large jackpot. I mean, at the time when this happened at Parx, the bad beat jackpot was over $140,000.
Now, this is only for cash games.
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
Oh.
So this was a tournament. We get nothing. So not only is Mike was knocked out of the tournament, yeah, I won the hand. Yippee. You know, I doubled my chip stack in a freaking $500.
Do you remember what was your hole cards for that hand?
I remember I had the queen and the jack, I think, of diamonds, if I remember correctly. I wish I could remember the exact detail of the action, but we got it all in on the river. I know that. It wasn't before that, because it wasn't like the suspense of everyone like, oh my God, what's coming out next? When we turned our hands over, he thought he won, obviously. He has quads. I knew I won because I had the nuts, right? I had the royal flush. But when you look over and say, okay, there's a cash game table 2 tables over, if it would have happened there, you know, he'd be getting half that $140,000. I think I get 25% as the winner of the hand. The other 25% is probably split through amongst the table. That's the way the bad beat jackpot works.
That's awesome.
We got nothing. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous because you're not part of the bad beat jackpot when you're in a tournament. Again, he got knocked out. I got a double chip stack. I didn't even make day 2 that tournament, so it ended up being worth nothing but a blog post that someone threw in there. You know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I remember I made a big fuss. I'm like, I don't even get a freaking T-shirt after this. You know, I'm not getting anything. If I was over there, I get $100,000. Over here, I get a T-shirt. They said they'd send me a T-shirt. I never got that fucking T-shirt, Joe.
You didn't deserve that T-shirt, man.
No. So moving on, got another email. You know, I know we keep talking about You Can Bet on That, one of the better podcasts out there for the recreational gambler. But they actually wrote us an email inquiring more about the score change boxes we talked about. They were curious, if you get 0-0 in a score change box, do you automatically get paid? And the answer to that is overwhelmingly yes.
As long as it stays 0-0, right?
Well, it doesn't have to stay because it's not the time box we talked about. It's the score change box, right? Change, yeah. So when you start with 0-0, typically you are getting paid. You're a winner right off the bat. And they were asking, more questions about, well, how much do you get paid? Is the final, what is the first quarter worth? The second quarter worth? And I don't think we went into enough depth on the payouts for these types of things. There is no, unlike the other football boxes, when you buy these squares, there's no first quarter payoff. There's no second quarter payoff. You're getting paid no matter when your numbers come up. So if you have 3-3 and it ends up being 3-3 in the first quarter, you're getting paid. Now, the amount of money you're getting paid depends on the pool. Now, typically it's about 3, maybe 4 times the buy-in. And the reason why it has to be set beforehand is it's not like, you're going to look at the end of the game and say, okay, there was 23 score changes. Let's split the pot up between 23 people. It doesn't work that way, okay? There's a set amount that gets determined. So let's say it's a $500 buy-in. You determine beforehand, every time there's a score change, the person who gets the score change gets 3 times their buy-in. They get $1,500. Whatever's left at the end goes all to the final. So that's why we were having that story about when my knees buckled and I lost all that money. There was only I think 7 or 8 score changes. That's why there was so much money left at the end that we could have won that we unfortunately did not.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're running these pools at home, 0-0 should get paid out right away. That's been my experience with it. Maybe others change it up, but my experience here on the East Coast, the way we always do it, 0-0 gets paid out right away. All right, our final email comes from Dave. Dave actually emailed the show. He said, just listen to the first 2 episodes, and you guys do an awesome job. I live near AC, Egg Harbor Township, not far from Storybook Land, so I'm really looking forward to your guys' AC stories. I know, Joe, you mentioned Storybook Land. You took the kids there.
Goddamn right I did.
He said one question. What's your thoughts on people using chairs at the craps table? He says, I get it if you're elderly and maybe have some kind of handicap. He goes, but I see younger, able-bodied people use them all the time, and I get real annoyed. Keep up the good work. What are your thoughts?
I agree with Dave, man.
Yeah. No, I mean...
What kind of able-bodied person needs to fucking sit at a chair at the craps table?
I've seen it, right? I don't see it a lot, but I've seen it.
My grandpa might need to do that, but he's fucking 90.
Yeah, and look, I encourage and I love to see an older grandpa or a grandma.
And it's awesome watching them.
I love that. They can't even see what's happening. They always ask me, what number was rolled? You know, they don't know. They just want the action. They want to be in the game. I love that they're still playing, but it's got to be tough on their bodies. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with a chair at the table. I don't typically see younger people or able-bodied people with chairs. I think if it's slow, I'm not going to get angry about it. But if you see the table's full and you got a chair there, if the dealer doesn't say something, you know I'm going to be I'm going to be passive aggressive and do something.
I mean, look, in the end though, what's the big deal, right? If there is a chair and it's not to the side and it's behind you, is it really affecting the game?
He's not even saying that. I mean, people are playing, and it's if he's taking up like 2 spots, and that's an issue.
That's a different story, right?
Now there is actually, you know, we've seen over and over again. There's an older Asian woman who plays craps all the time. She's been there just about every time I've been there. She's probably in her 60s. And she's there always with what I think is her mother. Only because it's an even older Asian lady who doesn't talk, but she's always tucked in the corner where you like to stay in, Joe, in a chair. And I feel horrible for this woman. Because this other lady is playing craps for hours on end, all day. Like, I'll wake up, I'll go play craps before a tournament, 10 o'clock in the morning. I come back later, 10 hours later, she's still there playing. That lady's still sitting in the corner. That older lady, the older lady, is not playing. She's just sitting there. I feel horrible.
Oh, she's not even playing.
No, I don't think she speaks. I've never seen anything. I feel like, you know, she can't be left alone, and her daughter's dragging her out to play craps at Parx. But in that case, completely fine with a chair. It's tucked in the corner, doesn't bother anyone. But if there's people trying to play, and you have a chair in the way...
Any kind of thing that would disrupt the game like that.
Yeah, no, I think I'd have a problem with that. But again, I don't see that happen too often. I don't know if Dave sees that at certain casinos. You know, I see it more at Borgata than other places. Borgata definitely has the table games with the chairs, like some Let It Ride and blackjack games pretty close. So I've seen people grab chairs there.
They just kind of turn it around, and it's...
Exactly. But yeah, Dave, of course, I'm going to get real annoyed if it's a crowded table and some able-bodied jerk-off. Yeah, exactly. Don't be scared. Call these guys out. What are they going to do? You're protected. Security's close by, Dave.
Listen, you fuck. Get rid of that chair.
Well, go, Joe. Thanks. So moving on, besides You Can Bet on That, there's another podcast we listened to this week called The Better Life, Bettor. It's hosted by Tim and a good guy who I look to be meeting in a couple weeks named Eric Rosenthal at the Gamblepalooza, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. But both You Can Bet on That and The Better Life, I don't know if it was on purpose or coincidentally, but they talked a lot about, you know, the stigma of gambling. Are people comfortable with telling others that they're a gambler, you know? And it kind of caught me off guard. And I don't mean to kind of take away from their spotlight at all. You know, we're going to piggyback a little bit on this because I thought it was really interesting. I actually tweeted to both You Can Bet on That and The Better Life about how I may be naive. Maybe it's just the way I grew up, but I'm a proud gambler, you know, and they had a lot to talk about how they don't feel comfortable telling people they gamble and how they know people who don't like to admit that they're gamblers at work, to their families. That, you know, some of their family members may think that they may, you know, flush their life down the toilet. And then they're not comfortable talking about these activities. And it just caught me, again, off guard. Because it never has been a question for me. You know, I never felt uncomfortable even introducing myself as, hey, I'm Vin, I gamble. Like, that's what I do.
Listen, I agree with you 100% because I feel the same way. But I do think that we are the minority here.
Maybe. And you know, it had me kind of take a second look at it. Because I only know what I'm surrounded with. And I kind of always put myself in a bubble, right? I have a bubble of my friends. I have a bubble of my family, most of which gamble, right? Yeah. You and I both don't have jobs where we're dealing with, you know, people's livelihoods, right? We're not sitting there with huge amounts of money people are giving us to trust us with. And I can get if you're in that type of situation, I can see why maybe you're a little bit...
Any kind of doubt that you can cast on your role.
Yeah.
You know, it could be damaging to you in your career.
Yeah, but it was just sad because, I mean, I almost felt, you know, and shame is a bad word, but some of them definitely felt shame. Some felt uncomfortable. I think Mark even mentioned on You Can Bet on that someone joked about him using the funds for work or something like that.
About checking his expense reports.
Yeah, and it's a shame.
Listen, I would make that joke. I really would.
Yeah, it's just a shame that it makes people hold back from something that they really love. But you're right. I didn't really look at the other side of it enough.
I think our circumstances and a lot of other gamblers are different. I mean, I just don't think a lot of people come from families that gamble like we do.
Because, I know we both agree. Family is something we did at every holiday, right? Growing up.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm a little kid, same as you.
Family vacations for me were at Atlantic City. We got in my Econoline van, had a bed in the back. My grandfather would drive. My mom, my uncle would be in the front, and me and my cousins would lay down in the back. I have so many memories of listening to oldies music. Probably took us at that point in time 4 to 5 hours to get to freaking Atlantic City because my grandfather drove so damn slow. But I have so many memories of that. And, we'll get into a lot more in depth about what we did as a kid there because obviously we couldn't go on the casino floor. But all of our vacations, and maybe this is sad to admit, but we're at Atlantic City, and I loved every single one of them. And maybe not everyone grew up that way. We gamble on holidays. We used to gamble on horses. I told you my 18th birthday was at Belmont. All our birthdays pretty much now are celebrated at the casino. But even if we're playing cards, we're playing, as you said, Pokino or
Left, Right, Center. We play now. I mean,
all this
play
stuff.
Cards. I mean, that's just what we do.
This is a family thing. So feeling like I'd be a little ashamed or worried what my family thought never crossed my mind. I will say this: my dad does not gamble, which is crazy to me because my mom is one of the biggest gamblers I know. Her brothers were both gamblers. My grandparents, they ran a card room. So literally, if I remember my childhood, it was in Elmont. If you know Elmont's on Long Island, 20, 30 years ago, predominantly Italian neighborhood. They owned a candy shop. And in the front of the candy shop was a card club. People would come, they'd play cards. At that time, they played all types. It wasn't like they were playing Hold'em, like they do nowadays. They were playing Pinochle, and they were playing all kinds of draw poker games and, wild card games.
It's funny you say that. My grandpa used to own a real estate company in Brooklyn. And that's what him and all the local guys did was play Pinochle for money.
No, I never played Pinochle. I know the concept of Pinochle.
That's what they did all the time.
But that's what they played. And as a kid, I remember being there all the time, serving drinks, just looking around for any ways to get tips. Oh, you need a sandwich, you need a drink. Can I do anything for you at all? Because I just wanted to be close to the game. I wasn't allowed to play.
This is like some straight up Goodfellas shit you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, without getting, I don't want to shine too much light on this.
Spider, dance.
I don't want to shine too much light, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of crimes that I know were committed in that card club, besides the fact that it was probably an illegal card room. But as a kid, I just wanted to be close to it, and my dad never wanted me close to it. My mom didn't mind me close to it, but there was growing up with one parent who didn't like gambling and the other did. When I look back at it, it was a little weird because my dad always kind of installed the belief on me, don't owe anyone money, make sure you have a solid job, 9 to 5, go to school. And my mom and her family was all just risking it all the time. They didn't really, not to say they didn't care that I went to school or didn't go to school. It was enjoy life, do what you got to do, let's go gamble. So growing up in that atmosphere, I had the best, I think, of both worlds. I knew how to enjoy myself, but I knew not to make sure I ever went broke, And I think my family saw that as I grew up. I was never in danger of losing every dollar I had. I don't see myself losing every dollar. Maybe one day I'm going to be on this podcast telling you I lost it all.
I'm probably going to lose every dollar I have, to be honest.
But okay, so but maybe your family's fine with that. I don't know. I don't know if your wife would be
okay
with
that. They're not fine with it. Nobody's fine with it.
Nobody's fine with that. So,
I'm fine with it.
Does your wife gamble? Lauren gambles, right? Your wife gambles.
Yeah, she does.
Now, when I say gambles, what does she typically play?
She plays everything I play. She'll play craps, roulette, blackjack, slots.
So I wonder, is that better or is that worse?
I'd rather she's not playing slots because she max bets and goes through money way quicker that way.
Way quicker than you do.
Yeah.
Like even at the craps table, you'll the burn will be a lot slower for you than it would be for her.
Yes.
So my wife Brienne does not gamble at all. Okay, I have to push her to play slots, and I'll sit with her and play them. But $20 and she's good.
Right.
She'll bet 30 cents and be very happy. So when I find a 30-cent, there's actually a super jackpot party game at Ocean that we've been playing a lot lately. It's 30 cents. I can sit her down there with $20. She's happy for a long time.
Right.
Right. But the one thing I will say, she has never once questioned me about how much I've won or lost, how much money I'm bringing to the casino, what I did. and I don't think I could be with someone who would question that from me. I think, she's told me and told my mother before we've had a conversation that she trusts that I know what I'm doing. She trusts that I'm paying the bills. Everything's getting taken care of. We don't have kids or anything yet, but I hope that continues when we do have kids, that she can trust. Because for me, when I'm going away 2-3 times a month and bringing what I bring to the casino, access to my whole entire bank account, which is where all my money is as well through markers, there's that risk there always. But I don't think I've ever kind of, sounded the alarm,
You've never given her a reason to worry.
No. And I think I wrote to Tim at Better Life that, I should be more grateful. I'm grateful that my family knows that side of me and that they trust that I won't make these decisions that would potentially, put me in a bad situation.
But I mean, look, honestly, everything you're saying is not the norm, I'd say, for people. Really.
Is it the norm for people listening to the podcast, I wonder? Like, I was surprised to hear it from people who are podcasting about gambling, maybe. I just thought that they'd be coming from an environment that was more open to it. But, I mean, a lot of them don't even use their names, and then I kind of shout it out. But my name is Vincent Messino. And when I introduce myself, I tell people I gamble. I play poker. Right. I have a job. I have a good job. And I'm grateful for the job that I have. I'm never going to just gamble for a living, but I'm going to gamble. And my boss knows I gamble. And he gives me off for the World Series. And I called him in when I made day 3 of Parx. I think that's a little give and take. Again, I don't have access to huge amounts of money at work, so maybe if that was the case, he'd be a little bit more worried than he is. But yeah, I just always felt more, I felt it was like a positive that I gambled. I don't know, it's risk-taking. That you need to be a risk-taker, right? I don't believe in kind of sitting back, having that mundane life. I think you should risk. Maybe not risk at all, but I think you need to risk to get ahead.
But and it's risk with being able to manage that risk.
Yeah, right. But bankroll management, I mean... Yeah. Again, I don't even know what my bankroll technically is when I go, but I don't ever come close to, again, losing it all. So I have to think technically it's good. I mean, I think I'm doing okay in that, in that world.
But listen, I think it's awesome that you're proud of who you are, not afraid to admit who you are.
Are you proud you're a gambler?
Oh, hell yeah, I am.
Okay, so there's no one that you'd be...
But I think I'm not the norm in a lot of things. Like, I don't give a shit about what anybody thinks about me in any way.
See,
and I think that just as much it is for gambling as it is
that's why we get along, though.
As a person.
We're going to do what we're going to do, okay? And I'm not going to hide the fact that there's some vices that I love. I've talked about, smoking on here, which,
He's a drug addict.
which is fine, which some people apparently have a problem with. It's legal in most places.
Not here.
No, it is not legal here.
No, but listen, you're right. You are who you are.
Yeah, and I'm not...
You're a Popeye.
I'm a what? Did you just call me Popeye? Yeah. We're going to cut this part. but I am. Yeah, but you know what it is, too? I think a lot of people looking in, and I'm curious to get some feedback on this, when they see that I've had success at the poker table, I think they kind of group that in with gambling. Like, oh, he's gambling. He's making money. Oh, he wins. He must know something we don't know kind of thing. That's not the case. But I think the mystery of that is what I like about the gambling. Someone knows I gamble. If they see him out there getting a nice dinner or doing this or that, going on vacations, people just think it comes from gambling.
Oh, he's rich.
Oh, he's gambling. He must be making money at them tables.
I think people seeing the success you have at the poker table also might change their view a little bit.
But I'm telling everyone right now, I said it the first freaking episode, I win at poker so I can lose it gambling. I'm not a winning gambler.
I don't think majority of people who know you, though, know that you love to gamble in every other aspect.
They just think I'm playing cards.
They just see the poker, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's look, thank goodness I am good at poker, that I've learned poker over the years. But literally, every dollar I win at poker, I'm probably losing in the casino. But I would
not every dollar.
But yeah, most of it, I don't care. Like, that's what it's there for.
Right.
I have a job to support myself. I'm going to gamble at poker to win money so I can lose it gambling and enjoy myself otherwise. That's how you get hotel rooms. That's how you get comp trips. It doesn't come... They're not giving me this stuff because I'm winning. They're giving it to me because I'm losing in the casino. So, yeah, don't think there's some kind of magic formula to winning in the casino. Anyone who tells you they're good or they're winning in the casino, who's not a poker player, and probably most poker players too, they're lying to you. I lose at craps. I lose at blackjack. I lose at roulette. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. But I will say this, and this is something that my uncle said to me recently, which I took to heart. He's always been a horse player, which again I think is the sucker bet of the world.
It's fun.
It's fun. But the edge in that is ridiculous. I don't know if there really are profitable horse handicappers out there who don't have inside information. I haven't met one. I've tried. I'm bad at it.
All you got to do, according to my grandpa,
Tank.
is watch which horse takes a shit before the race.
Because he's going to run. He's a little bit lighter.
And that's the horse you bet.
So that's it. And maybe that's what I've been missing this whole time. I have to go watch them in the paddock, watch them take a shit before the race. But I have not learned that yet. You know, I've watched a lot of people tell me they're good at horse racing and betting, and they don't. My uncle he's at Belmont a lot. He lived right around the corner from Belmont. We'll go there all the time. After I got my first, I remember, big score at poker, he was probably more proud than I think anyone, because he said now he feels validated. You know, he's like, you can win. There are people out there that win, you know, and you can win. And when you win, it's like, I feel better about the fact that I gamble.
I feel better that I lose.
Yeah, well, it's just that, you know.
No, listen, you get to see the other side of it. I mean,
the other side of it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not all a bunch of losers.
Right.
You know, you can win. And, you know, I guarantee one time in his life, he's definitely hit some big pots before, you know, but there's a lot more losing sessions than winning.
I'm sure he's saying, too, like, you know, with your family and everyone who gambles and all these years, like, he's probably saying to himself, like, something you learned along the way has given you the confidence in this,
you're right.
you know,
and
way to take the next step.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have started playing. There's no way I would have just randomly started playing cards. I played cards because I learned it from the card club my grandparents ran. They played cards there. He played cards there. My mom played cards there. My family taught me to play cards. None of them were really poker players, but they were recreational. You know, they're amateur card. They played card games, home games. I just happened to take that to that next level, you know? So, yeah, I wouldn't be who I am without them, so I would not have been a gambler without them. So, yeah, that stems from them. And I wish that my grandparents were around to see this, you know, that they would love it. I mean, my grandpa never worked a day in his life, and that's not an exaggeration. He literally never had a job.
Yeah, that whole thing sounds crazy.
He was a craps player. I don't know, you know, the stories are that he was a profitable craps player. Again, he's probably lying. The stories somehow got kind of, you know, a little bit more, what's the word, exaggerated, yeah. Right? I'm sure there was a run of time. He had some strategy that worked until it didn't. And then when it didn't, he probably lost. But he had so many odds and ends. I mean, he used to pick up cans and you know, he used to have fake barcodes he used to put in the damn recycling machines. I mean, this guy found ways to make money and support his family, you know, and I commend that, whereas others may look down upon that. He's not necessarily robbing people, but he's hustling people. You know, he's finding a way. I'm glad that I'm not doing that at this point in my life, but there was definitely times, I can tell you, from 15, 20 years ago, where most of the money I was making was hustling, you know, and trying to cheat people, and that's just not the case anymore. Now I'm allowed to make it a little bit more legit. So anyway, I wish that he was alive today, him and my grandma, to see, again, the profitable side of it. I would love to, you know, look over as I'm at a final table and see my grandparents sitting there watching the game. My mom right now is probably my biggest fan, you know, in poker, and there's nothing better, again, than having someone who knows how you grew up, someone who knows gambling, being there and seeing how this happens. And again, I can't thank my family, my wife, my mom enough for you know, being there and letting me do what I do.
Dude, you gotta fucking stop. I'm about to cry.
This is going off the rails here. This isn't funny anymore.
This is real serious shit right now.
I don't like this. Let's talk about what's really important today, Joe. I don't know how we didn't mention this yet. It's somebody's birthday.
Whose?
Big Joe is turning 35?
36, motherfucker.
You old.
I'm real old.
I thought you were a year younger than. Well, I guess kind of you're a year younger than me. You're not a full year younger than me.
Not a full year.
You look 10 years older than me, though. Right now, you know, if you could see what we just did, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's Wednesday morning now.
Yes.
There's a 3/4 of an eaten Carvel cake in front of us.
Vin ate most of it.
Yeah. Yes, it did. It did say happy birthday, Big Joe. It's now a melted mess.
It was a real treat.
It was.
It was a Fudgy the Whale cake from Carvel.
Don't lie to the people. I'm going to post a picture. It wasn't Fudgy the Whale.
It looked like Fudgy. It's Fudgy the Whale minus the whale shape.
Yeah. Okay. So It was a square. It was a part of Fudgy the Whale that's square. Okay. Anyway, yeah, it was delicious. How did you spend your birthday, Joe? Besides doing a podcast with me at 2 a.m.
I was in Pennsylvania with my family for the past few days.
No gambling, I'm assuming.
No gambling. We drove past 2 casinos on the way home.
Didn't have that itch.
I did have that itch, but my kids were in the back seat sleeping. I didn't want to ruin it. I just kind of wanted to get home at that point.
You are a good father, aren't you?
Sometimes.
All right. So you're not really as degenerate as you seem.
Not to say that while we were driving through New Jersey and stopped at a rest stop, I didn't pull up the Tropicana app. and play some blackjack.
That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear.
For the most part, no, it was a good couple days with my family.
So you coming back from Pennsylvania? I'm going to Pennsylvania. I'm going to the Woodlock Lodge. Okay, I know you went to Woodlock Pines, or maybe you heard of Woodlock Pines.
I went to the poor man's Woodlock. It wasn't Woodlock at all.
Oh, it wasn't. I thought it was Woodlock Pines. I'm wrong. Okay, so I'm going to Woodlock. I don't know. It's some spa retreat. There'll be no gambling for me. I don't think there's even allowed cell phones there, which I don't think I'm going to follow that rule. But it's supposed to be about getting in touch with nature and eating good food. I'm not sure. It's a trip I'm taking away from the casino.
That sounds horrible.
Again, my wife will be sleeping. I'll find a way to gamble while she is. But
just
after
so you know, I did investigate. You can't gamble online in Pennsylvania just yet.
So, okay.
Apparently they passed a law, but it still hasn't been.
So you're telling me I'm going to be playing my slot machine app, my games on my phone, which have become extremely addicting. I don't know if anyone out there plays these stupid ass gambling games.
Jackpot Party HD, baby.
There's Goldfish Party I'm playing, Jackpot Party. I have 4 of them lined up on my damn phone. It's all the real casino games, and you're playing for fake money, yet
it feels real.
I'm as into it as when I win real money.
It's sad to say, but it's true.
And the thing I don't understand is, you start with a couple of million coins or whatever the hell it is. You can bet 5,000. Yet for some odd reason, I want to bet 1 million coins. Why? What's the freaking difference? You can't win anything. Yet when I win 10 million, I have to bet 10 million. I end up broke at the end of every freaking day, waiting for the next day so I get a refill on my coins.
It's fun. It feels like real action.
It makes me feel pathetic.
I know.
It does. But I wake up in the morning.
I have to thank you for this. Because,
I'm sorry about that. Yeah. But on the good side of things, it did turn me on to a lot of slot machines I weren't aware of, and now when I'm walking to the casino, I'm like, oh shit.
Look, there's little puppies. With
Oh my God, puppies.
Yeah.
Oh my God, kittens.
Yeah.
So whatever the casino's doing, it's working because they're getting me to play more games in the casino and lay up in bed all night hitting the stupid button on my phone.
Nice.
So anyway, we're going to the Woodlock, but the following week, March 2nd, I will be at Borgata. Stevie Mandime will be at Borgata. Danny Osh will be at Borgata. I don't think Joe will be at Borgata.
I will not be at Borgata.
Now, I didn't think he'd be at Parx. Maybe he'll show up.
There's no chance. I'm
Zero.
going to AC the following week with my wife, so I'm not going to be there.
So we'll have a follow up then. So this next podcast will be after that March 2nd trip. I hope some of you recreational poker players out there, or people who are thinking about playing poker, go play one of those Deep Stack Borgata tournaments I talked about that whole week or two before. But I'll be there March 2nd. Joe will be in AC.
What's Gamblepalooza?
Yeah, so Gamblepalooza is something we're going to be partaking. Well, at least I definitely am going. Still working on getting Joe there. Again, I know Steve and Dan are going to show up too. Vito's Casino podcast, another great podcast that's up here in the Northeast. I believe he's more focused in the Connecticut area, Foxwoods and Mohegan and such. But he's organizing a wonderful kind of a weekend that's going to take place on April 12th, I believe it is. April 12th to the 15th. Calling it Gamblepalooza. It's just going to be a meetup of a bunch of podcasts, a bunch of people who just want to gamble, do a slot pull. There's some dinners and brunches that they're organizing. If you go to @Gamblepalooza on Twitter, you'll find out more information there. I know in upcoming weeks he has a lot of places you can reserve a spot for different dinner reservations. If you want to do that slot pull, may even have a poker meetup he's talking about. It's all in the works right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, these are people that I know from Twitter, and I've listened to them, never met them.
You didn't go to this last year?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I'm an introvert, right? I don't really love people. Everyone knows that. But they've been so, warm and welcoming to us that, I want to do what I can to help. In fact, if there are people out there who are interested in potentially going to Gamblepalooza, can't get rooms, I think most of us, at least I know some of us, are staying at Ocean, where a lot of the festivities will be taking place. If you have gaming history at other casinos, but you're not affiliated with Ocean yet, you don't have their card, just reach out to us. You can email us. I can put you in touch with a host. He can take a look at your play. He's been great for me, my wife, my family, my friends. Ocean's obviously looking for new players, so I'm sure they'll be able to help you out, maybe get you a discounted room rate, maybe a comped room if you're a player out there. But again, go to @Gamblepalooza on Twitter to find out more information. Vito and I think Eric Rosendahl as well is involved in kind of organizing the whole thing. So greatly appreciate them welcoming us in and allowing us to partake in this as well. No joke, Joe. Literally just got a text from my wife wondering where the hell I am. It's Wednesday night. It's 2:30 a.m. This went a little overboard.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Please come to Twitter. Follow us at 7outpod. You can email us at 7outpod@gmail.com. Go to iTunes, Spotify, all these other damn sites. I don't even know what the hell they're called.
You guys know the bullshit.
Yeah, the same thing everyone else says. Please go there. We appreciate the reviews. And, good luck at the tables to the next podcast. And remember, take what you can and give nothing back.
Whatever you do, don't roll a 7!